Hello everybody. So, I've got a lot of experience with Football Manager. I think I'm approaching 3 or 4,000 hours in the game. And one of the things that actually is one of the most difficult things you're going to do in Football Manager isn't necessarily games, it's setting up. Because it can be a lot to do. And it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm going to take a quick, Newcastle save. And I'm going to show you what you might want to do when you first start a save. Now, of course, you have to choose your club. You get all these options. Of course, if you've downloaded other saves, so I've got the Egyptian save, the worst FM database ever, a bit of a funny save, that's Lower League of England, Lower League of Ireland saves, that sort of thing. If you need to add any of these, add any of these if you want. The England level 10 one is quite fun. I'll show you that. So if I make sure that's... You will have to use this as a custom database, so you'll have to choose game mode first. So you have your three game modes, so you have Original, Real World, and Your World. So, Original is the classic Football Manager. You start with the players that you have signed throughout the window, no matter when they signed. So, for example, Liverpool will start with McAllister, they'll start with Gravenberch, even though they might not have signed at that exact date. That's what Real World does. So if a player signed on transfer deadline day, you will not get this player until transfer deadline day, but they will still be joining your club. And then you have Your World, which is essentially very little transfers happen now. It's strange because some transfers that happen in real life are still included, for example, Nkunku to Chelsea. I believe they've included ones that were reported on or believed to have been agreed before the season started. So McAllister is at Liverpool, for example. However, a majority of other players are not. For example, Chelsea still have a whole rebuild do now. Your world saves can be incredibly fun because you can load in with Chelsea and have 200 million if you sell Lukaku, if you sell Aubameyang, if you sell Azpilicueta and all these players. It also means every other club has their own money to spend, which means selling players is a lot easier. So you can make a very interesting squad. Now, I'm going to go original. I do enjoy Your World, but I'm just going to go original just to do the typical save. You can choose whichever one you feel like. You can still change it in this screen as well, you can see. This can be overwhelming. So I'm only going to load England just so it runs quicker, and you can see I've got down to level 10. So I'm going to go through each option. So large database. Don't worry about this. This is too much detail. I don't think I've ever used this even. I go with large database because I have a fairly decent PC, a Ryzen 5 4500, 16 gigabytes of RAM, so it can load about 150,000 players. You will have to tailor, so if you're adding leagues, if you're adding, let's see, add and remove leagues, Argentina, Brazil, and you're adding every nation, you're going to have to double check and make sure your PC can handle it. Now, game start date. This will depend on what leagues you have loaded. This is most usable if you start unemployed. For example, if you're starting unemployed and you want to wait till Christmas until you start looking for jobs, one of the things you can do is set this for the first matches in the 2023-24 Europa League, because you can see that takes you all the way till the 9th. Whereas you start right at the start of the preseason. Now, this can be pretty fun. You can skip out preseason if you want. If you don't particularly want to manage preseason, if you're confident that you'll be able to set up a tactic and get a team working after that and get all the transfers done, go for it. You can see each individual league is different. Don't worry about this too much. I would always tend to go early preseason. And you can see game mode here. Game setup, so if you've set up, so if I load leagues, I always use Argentina, Brazil, I always use Japan, South Korea, and then I load a lot of European leagues. If I always use that one, time after time, I can just go save as, and whenever I load in a new game, I can just go recent or load, which means it's very easy to just get the levels of leagues you want, which is very easy. And there, you can see, choose a game mode, you can go and choose that even after now. And then we have all these options. So use fake players and staff. So no more players or staff members. You won't have Pep Guardiola. You won't have Lionel Messi. You won't. They will all be replaced by regens. Cool. Do not use real fixtures. So obviously in the first season, they've been able to go and look at the Premier League fixtures in real life, the League One fixtures in real life, and put that in. So Wycombe played Exeter on the first day in real life, and if you loaded a save of Wycombe Wanderers in Football Manager, you would play Exeter on the first day of your Football Manager save in terms of the league. You can get that, you can remove that if you want. Again, not much difference, but it's interesting. Do not add key staff. So this is an interesting one. So if you're playing with certain teams, especially in this sort of situation, level 10 and above, where you're adding leagues, if you have that unticked, for every one of these clubs that wouldn't have a manager or coach, they will add those key staff. It can be quite good if you're doing one of these saves, just to add a lot of staff members and make it a bit easier. It's up to you, that one. And also add players to playable teams. Now, I do this because, again, for level 10 and above, this means that they're going to look at, let me think of a 10th tier team, South Ruslip in Liverpool, I believe, are county level, or county league, so step 9. Football Manager won't have included their players. So, if you want to add players, they will add regens and pre-gens to all these teams. They'll add an under-18 squad, they'll add a senior squad. There won't be a very good one, in my experience, but it's players there, so you're not starting the game with 0 players. A useful one to have. Disable first window transfer activity. Again, pretty simple. So, especially if you start with Your World, or Original, sorry. This just means that whatever transfer window happened in real life, that will be it. You can't do any loans, you can't do any free transfers, you can't do any signings. Anything will have to wait until Christmas, so it's very, very accurate. Disable player attribute masking. So if you go into a game, and essentially attribute masking will remove what you can see about a player's attributes. So if I have it disabled because I just like being able to quickly go and see who's who. I might actually enable it for this save to show you, for example. Whereas if you have it disabled, you just see their stats immediately. If you have it enabled, you have to scout them in order to see their actual stats. You might see some outlines. So you might see, for example, their acceleration is 16 to 20 and their finishing is 11 to 15. But you don't know for certain. You have to scout them in order to actually figure out, obviously, different levels of players. If you don't know anything about that player or that league, you'll know nothing. But whereas world-class players who are well known about, you will see basically everything about them. Prevent control of teams with managers in place. So you can add another manager. This is a rare one. Sometimes you might add a manager to manage 2 teams at once. It can be a bit of fun. Or sometimes people add managers. So let's say I manage Wycombe Wanderers, then I add a manager to Newcastle United. I pay over the odds for a couple of players so I can have a bit of fun with 5-6 million as Wycombe Wanderers. And then prevent use of in-game editor. So there's obviously the edit that comes with the game. You can edit stats, you can edit details of players, you can edit club finance, stuff like that. That means you can't use this in this save. You can turn on whatever you want. I normally do not add key staff, add players to playable teams, and disable player attribute masking. I'm pretty happy with those ones. But you can tinker and tailor what you want. Some of them are not necessarily important, but they can be a bit... You can see all these options and go, okay, what do all these mean? Don't worry about them too much. If you ever need to check, just tick the little eye, just hold your cursor over it, and it will tell you what it means, essentially. That's gone pretty fast. Now, remember, on my old PC, this would have took about... Literally, I would have been able to start a save with about 100,000 players, could go have a shower, make myself something to eat, come back, and it would just about be loaded. But this PC, thank God, runs it fairly quickly. That also works in-game. It used to take me nearly a minute some days. I remember I had a Derry City save in 2030, and that took, I'd say, a minute or 2 for each day. Like, I just end up sitting there watching Netflix or YouTube because you couldn't play it like day to day. You couldn't quickly load the next day, load to the next match. It would take 10 minutes to get to the next match, which was very disappointing. So then you have this. You've probably been asked to create a profile whenever you first loaded the game. You probably have done so. If you desire to create a new one for whatever reason, if you want to, for example, make a spoof of Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola, or you just fancy a different profile, maybe you're doing a different sort of character, maybe you fancy just making somebody else, that's fine. You can create a new profile there and that will go through all of it. You can see I'm male, my actual birthday, nationality is Irish and English, what I am, favourite team Wickham. Don't worry about this so much, because you use profile, then we go and look at what team. So you can see we actually have all the way down to, yeah, I might actually do a save down here at some point. But we're going Premier League, and we're going to Manchester. Then we're going to Newcastle United, so you can see professional, continental, the Magpies, loves the club, how much our stadium is, our training facilities, what continental cup we're in, what our board culture is, so we want to develop youth players, we want to play attacking football, blah, blah, blah. You can also manage both an international team and a club, so that is something that can happen in Football Manager, less so in real life. Normally happens after a couple of seasons at a fairly high level club. At Derry City, for example, in 2027, I was asked to manage Senegal. Did well at Senegal, and in 2029, I was asked to manage France. Now, unlike in real life, you can do both of this. You can do both. You can manage France and manage Newcastle. There's not a lot to do with international management, but it's a bit of fun. And then you can start unemployed, which means you will start without a club. But we're starting single team Newcastle United and managerial style. This all looks complicated. Again, I would always do suggest badge and suggest experience based on the club you're at. So I'm just going to go 20 working. I always focus on attacking and youngsters. Then we just do set pieces. I don't ever do goalkeeping or fitness because I don't really see the need to. We have dedicated fitness and goalkeeping coaches, and I don't really mind too much. So basically, for coaching attributes, this will affect how you can coach your team. And at lower levels, this is actually very, very important. So if I go, for example, say I'm going to be National C and I'm a semi-professional footballer, you can see the mental attributes and the coaching attributes really start getting torn down. So to figure out what you want. So maybe I want 8 in attacking and 6 in tactical, but it means you're not going to have anything else, or you can spread them out. For low leagues, I always reckon it's better to be very good at one thing and to try and sign guys who can fill in. So sign somebody who can fill in as a defender coach and then a fitness coach and a goalkeeping coach. Working with youngsters just means young players will be happier and be more likely to develop. I've also found a high working with youngsters stat can help you sign young players. I've not got evidence of this, but I've had experience, especially with Derry City, that young players and young players' agents will be more happy to work with you because of your high working with youngsters, because they feel like you're more likely to develop them and play them. So that can be very, very useful, which is why if I went back into this, I always try and put it in. I don't want fitness. I don't think it does too much. And I'll add the rest to defending. It does too much, but it's something additional. Then you have all of the mental attributes, and these do actually matter somewhat. So motivating will mean you do better at team talks. It means you will do better at things like that and team meetings, and that can be very, very powerful. Level of discipline means that essentially players are more likely to accept when you find them, when you tell them they're not training well, more likely to respect you and your opinion. So if you have 20 discipline, that's good. People management, again, this is more for just general chats. Are players more likely to listen to you? For example, if you asked them stuff like after a match, maybe they performed well. Sometimes players can get upset thinking I didn't perform well, or if you praise them for training well, they can go and turn around and go, actually, I don't think I've been training well recently, my standards are higher. People management will help with that. Now, I don't really think player knowledge and youngster knowledge is important. You're going to have scouts for that. You're going to have coaches for that, so I don't tend to see it as important. Determination, means you're more likely to get success with the board. So if you go to the board and request better training facilities, better youth facilities, there is a level that you cannot control. If you are not under good circumstances financially, if you're in poor form, chances are, even with 20 determination, you're not going to get it. But it can increase the chances that you're going to get these things if the situation's right. Asking the club to build £10 million training facilities when you are £5 million in debt is not going to happen, regardless of how determined you are. And adaptability means you're better going to foreign leagues, means you can pick up languages quicker and pick up scouting knowledge of other places quickly. If you didn't know, your manager can also gain scouting knowledge. So, for example, my manager has scouting knowledge of England and Ireland because he's from there. If I manage in Japan, which I have got a Gizu save going on in Japan Free League, he's starting to gain scouting knowledge of Japan, and he's starting to gain language knowledge of Japanese. And a higher adaptability will help that. If you're doing a journeyman save, or you imagine yourself going around and moving, that can be very, very handy. But we've applied all these. You can figure out which mix you like. Obviously, a big club like Newcastle, you're more likely to be able to just put everything into everything. Whereas with teams like Wickham or maybe Vanarama teams or level 10 teams, you're going to have to be a lot more specific about what you want, and you're really going to have to think about which one to put in. So we hired John. Here's a screen again, director of football. You can see, is he any good? He's actually pretty good. Assistant manager Tyndall, yeah. Fierce rival Sunderland, blah, 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 blah. Good just to get an overview. It's a small budget, got wage budget, and what they reckon our best 11 is. Now that will also, and you can see, this is what they want from me. Develop players, grow the club's reputation, increase commercial revenue, work within the wage budget. Importance means that required means they don't just want you to do it, you will have to do it. You can see I've got 3 required here. Work within the wage budget, qualify in Champions League, and reach that's actually quite difficult to reach the latter stage of the UEFA Champions League. They desire that I challenge for the FA Cup, that I grow the club's reputation. They would like it if I develop players using a youth system, if I increase the commercial revenue, and they just want to see me try in a Carabao Cup. They don't really care too much. Try and focus on the required ones, because those can keep you or lose you a job. I'd say you could maybe fail one of these 3. I reckon that in this save, I would probably not qualify for the UEFA Champions League in the first save. You've got Arsenal, Tottenham, not really Chelsea, but Liverpool, United, City, even Aston Villa and Brighton could be very good in this year's FM. So that could be difficult, but I could work within the wage budget and I could reach latter stages of the UEFA Champions League. You can see long term, so they want us to work towards challenging for the Premier League title. So that's a good one to have, actually, because they just want to see progress. They don't want to actually see it. It's only by 27, 28 do they actually want us to see genuinely fighting for a Premier League title and to win a domestic cup, which is a fair bout, especially with the amount of money you're going to get. You can see they want attacking football, again desired. The only thing they want, they don't want anything actually, so that you could play defensive, you could play low tempo if you wanted, and get away with it as long as you're achieving results. Qualified to UEFA Champions League, that's the supporters, but you can check the supporters later. I don't do press conferences myself, but you can schedule them. I'd never do an inter-match friendly, and every month just for a meeting with backroom staff. I find they're useful to have, but you don't need them every week. And again, you get a lot of stuff when you load in, and it's kind of scary, isn't it? First of all, supporters. You can see the supporters' influence on the board is low, which means even though they require I qualify for the Champions League, they don't actually have that much influence on what happens to me. At some clubs, for example Germany, that would be quite high, and you do have to satisfy the fans. So, I'm not too nervous about this. You can also see more detail, favoured personnel. You can also see how much money you're going to get from them, which is very interesting. We'll go back. Club visions, expectations. In your first season, there's no point trying to negotiate. They're going to tell you, you're a new manager, wise up and buck up. Same with any sort of board requests. The only thing I've seen them do is allow you a set piece scout, because that seems to be hard coded that they'll allow a set piece scout. Apart from that, do not expect to get any board requests in the first, I'd say, 3 or 4 months. You can see who's out of contract. I do 2 things here. Are they good enough to start for me or back up for me? So maybe Lascelles and Shaw I should give new contracts to, or do they have high potential? Maybe Murphy and Amadou Diallo? He's 20 years old. We don't have to make a decision about that right now. Tactical direction, we'll do that in a second. You can do this. I don't really tend to touch this. You can, for example, do a very tactical one if you want them to get assists, especially if you're coming in, to be fair. You can see we've got normal, where they get team cohesion slightly, sharpness slightly, happiness slightly, and tactical familiarity. Or you can do tactical, where they actually get a fair bit of team cohesion and quite a lot of tactical familiarity. That might actually be better for the first season, because you're going to be installing a tactic which they won't have played before, and you do need them to get to know it better. I decline to meet the media. Yeah, I'm not meeting the media. So, what's first? So we can see, I'll go down in sort of this order here. We've got just our entire squad. So in purple, I'm going to do that actually. I'm going to hide players not at club, because they're on loan. So they're not going to be making any difference in terms of our team. And the first thing we should look at is, do we have any positions where we have a lot of players? Do we have any positions where we don't have a lot of players? I'm seeing we have 4 goalkeepers. We do not need 4 goalkeepers. And we definitely do not need a goalkeeper who's on £45,000 a week, who's 34. So, Martin Dubravka, higher intermediary, see you later, man. I do not need you. I can use Karius, or I can use Gillespie as a backup. You can also see Remy Savage. He looks like he has no ability and no potential. So he looks like he's available for loan. Again, we're going to make him unavailable for loan. We're going to ask him to be transfer listed. I think there's another player like that in the first team. No? Okay, we seem fine. Elliot Anderson is available for loan. We will see if we need Elliot Anderson. I'm not sure if we will. I'm not sure if we won't. So I'm not going to make a decision on that yet. Then we go into Squad Planner. Squad Planner is not really useful, I don't think. It can be quite useful at the start of a season, especially at the season after this one, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Dynamics is really important. Team cohesion and club atmosphere are fantastic things to have. If you have them high, you will overperform like nobody else. It's really important to do that. So how do you get better club atmosphere and team cohesion? Well, club atmosphere is pretty simple. Just make sure players are happy. Give them game time, make sure they're happy. If one's unhappy, try and deal with it or sell them. How do you run into unhappiness? Not playing enough games, trying to sell them when they're not going to be sold, failing to reach targets or failing to reach promises. I don't give out promises because promises are very difficult to do. It could be anything from expect to fight for a certain cup, or it could be bringing a player that they're familiar with. Try not to give out promises unless you absolutely have to. And say you're bringing in a star player and he asks you increase the staff ability, increase the coaching ability. Fair enough, do that. You can see the hierarchy. Who's the team leaders? Who's highly influential? Who's influential other players? This is quite useful to know. First of all, having multiple team leaders, having highly influential players is very good. Team leaders, but you also have to worry about keeping them happy. Think about it like this. If Loris Karius gets annoyed, he's not going to really influence many other players. If Kieran Trippier gets annoyed, he's considered a leader. He's got a very good reputation, high ability, set for regular game time. If I annoy him, he may bring a lot of other players to support him in. So you have to worry about that. Social groups. Again, you can see actually this is quite good. They recommend who they think would fit into the squad. Jadon Sancho. Aren't we professional? I swear we're like professional. But anyway. This will change over the course of a season depending on who you sign, who's expecting. Like Matt Ritchie, I'm expecting to leave, so I'm not too worried about him. Elliot Anderson, he will get game time and hopefully get into one of these teams. What you really would love is having everybody in Corso's group, but that's quite difficult to do. Happiness, you can have a look and see. This is a really easy way to see if they're unhappy, what are they happy about. Emil Kraft is only slightly happy because I believe he's injured. Fair enough. Remy Savage is only slightly happy because I want the sound. Code of conduct, we haven't agreed yet. Team meeting, we will do a team meeting later, and you can also get feedback about the team meeting. And I've got a question. Whatever. Tactics. I have a 4-3-3 that I love. I'm not using a Trey Chorister though. I'll do that for now. I'll see. That's the sort of 4-3-3 I tend to use. You can see, pretty simple. I can tailor it depending on who I get. So Nick Pope is a goalkeeper. And this is where we start figuring out our depth. So I'm going to put Loris Karius as my backup in number 11. Then you can either do, for Newcastle, you might know, for example, well, I know Alexander Isak's going to be my advanced forward. But if you don't know, say, okay, what centre-back's best for Newcastle? Click this little tab here, and it will bring up who your club coaches believe are best for that position. So you can see Sven Botman is the best one, but also check left-footed, prefers being the left in a two-man pairing, so play him on that left-hand side. Then you can look, you can see Fabian Shaw. Brilliant, Fabian's in, and he's right-footed, prefers being on the right. Brilliant. So, right back, I mean, we're going to Kieran Trippier, aren't we? And then Livramento can be, I like doing this. I like having a first and second XI with the club. So, Matt Target, I'm not enamoured of Matt Target. He'll be one I look to replace quite quickly. He's 8, he's young, he'd probably be a backup. Let's see who else. We have Lascelles, who can be one of the backups. We have Dan Burn, I think, is our left back backup, which is very unfortunate. I mean, he can be an inverted full-back if you want a more defensive option. He can also be a centre-back, so it's not bad rotation, which means I need another centre-back, which means it's Paul bloody Dummett. Or is Paul Dummett better as the... neither, really. Right. Paul Dummett as the left-back rotation, Dan Burn as the centre-back rotation. I will be looking, actually, to get a different left-back, potentially. So I'll show you what I might do. Right-back option, we got Timo Livramento. Livramento could also play left-back. I'd rather him just stay as a right-back. In Football Manager, if you train a player to do another position, that takes away from that current ability. So you might want to stop and think, do I want this player developing more in terms of stats? Or do I want him to be able to play left back? Now, he's reasonable left footer, but I'd rather him just continue to improve. He looks like he could be a long-term solution to Trippier. He's 20 years old. He's got decent potential. He looks fairly solid. I'd rather him just learn to back up Trippier. Manquillo, I want him gone as well. Then we got Bruno Guimaraes, who can be that, but he's best as a deep line playmaker. So, deep line playmaker, I mean, that's the thing about Newcastle, is they don't really have a lot of rotation options, do they? Joe Linton, I'm going to make a box-to-box. It's not what he's best as, but when you think about it, 18 stamina, 17 aggression, 20 bravery, 16 dribbling, 15 first touch, 13 passing, 15 tackling, technique, work rate, teamwork. He's a fucking fantastic box-to-box midfielder. And you can see he's really highly rated. The other one, I'd probably go with Joe Willock, but he's injured. So that means, actually, I'm going to go Elliot Anderson as a Metsala on attack. He can play there, and I'm going to make sure he's training there. There's no reason not to use him, because he is natural at centre mid already, so I'll also get rid of his loan then. That's really unfortunate about Willock, because Willock is actually pretty decent as a Metsala on attack, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Oh, that's annoying. Also means I have fairly little centre mid rotation option, don't I? What if I do this? Harvey Barnes, Almiron. Right. If I play you there, what can you do best here? Advanced playmaker and attack, maybe? If I play you there, what do I get from you? Deep line playmaker or Correo? Ugh, I don't really like this. I have no rotation. I'm going to have to get a loan in. And this is why you start doing this piece by piece. You can see where you need rotation in. I mean, on the right-hand side, we're probably going to go for Almiron. He's actually quite good. I'm going to make him an inverted winger, I think. Yeah, inverted winger. And on the right-hand side, I don't really know who's the best for the right-hand side. Could be Harvey Barnes, could be Gordon. Harvey Barnes is pretty good as a winger. Anthony Gordon is also pretty good as a winger. Probably play Gordon as a winger then, that's strange. Wingers can actually be very good this FM, to be fair, even if they're not the right foot. That means Jacob Murphy can be the inverted winger backup on the right-hand side, so that would be number 9. Harvey Barnes can be the backup on the left-hand side, so number 8. And then Joe Wilson is the backup striker, number 10. Sean Longstaff is going to probably be, so that's a defensive midfielder, so that's my box-to-box rotation. He can also play that position, I guess, if absolutely necessary, but he's actually pretty decent as a box-to-box backup. So I'll keep him. Sandro Tonali is banned, isn't he? Jesus Christ, yeah, he'd be really good as a backup. Or like the Correo or something, but yeah, no, I can't rely on Tonali at the moment. That's really annoying. Which means... yeah, I need midfielders. Let's see. Then we go to the development centre, see if there's any midfielders. Oh, yeah. That might be why. Lewis Hall, get in the squad. And where was he? Lewis Millet. No, other one. Where's Lewis Millet? I'll go back here. Get in the squad. Right, let's see. Lewis Hall can be the deep line playmaker. Five, and then... where is he? Did I not bring him up to the first team? I didn't. Brought him up to 21s. No. And Lewis Millet can be the Metsala attack option. Yeah. And there you can see we have, theoretically, a squad. We play one player for every position. So left back we have Dummett, Byrne and Lascelles, Livramento, Hall, Longstaff, Millet, Barnes, Jacob, Wilson. Of course, this could use strengthening, which is why I'm attempting to sell Dubravka, I'm attempting to sell Savage. I'll look to sell Kraft whenever he recovers. I'm looking to sell Manquillo and Ritchie. Data Hub, quite useful. Won't start for another couple of months, which is annoying. Keep an eye on it. It can be very useful. It's not always exceptional, but it can be useful. Staff. Now, you can do this two ways. You can see we have a lot of slots open, especially with coaching. So you can either just simply go, place advert, set piece coach. And you can see in a couple of weeks, they'll give you so many players that you can sign. Or, if you really, so I know, for example, I probably want another fitness coach and another goalkeeping coach. So let's go, new search, goalkeeping coach, boop. One of the easiest ways is just to go by job rating. Oh, who's this? Tony Tapalovic. Oh yeah, that's really good. Push a sign, get in the club. Lolichon, I believe, is actually far better as a regular ass coach, if I remember correctly. Yes, yes he is. So no, you're just a regular coach. And you can see also he's quite good as a goalkeeping coach. To be fair, I could bring in like 2 goalkeeping coaches and just really do well. And then you can go again, recruitment team, or coaching, fitness coach. You can either wait for the, you can wait for those to come back, Or you can just go, so I've signed 3 coaches, so I have 9, so I have 3 left, so I'll sign maybe 2 fitness coaches. Yeah, he's pretty good. And Dupont, also pretty good, so I'll sign him. Okay, he wants to be the under 18 fitness coach, fine by me. If you don't know, you can actually use under like 18, 21 fitness coaches in your first team anyway, so there's no point. If they ask for that, by all means, take it. So what? That's 2 more coaches, which means I can have 9, 11. I can have 1 more coach. I'll just go have a look for just a regular ass coach. You can also search by what you need. So if I go overview, you can see maybe my defending is the worst stat at the club. So if I go edit search, I can do attributes, defending, let's say 18. Miguel Kreuzmer, I don't know how to say that name. You can see he's actually very good, but because he's head of youth development, I don't think he will want to be a coach. Oh, he will. Sound. Brilliant. So that's all my staff done. You can also place adverts. I can place an advert for scouts. I'm not going to do a full scouting tutorial. I'll do a scouting tutorial separately because they can be really, really in-depth. Physio, brilliant. And I think that's about it for staff. Yeah. And then you've got training. Training, there's a lot to do, but it's really important that you get to know these because they can be really, really important. So you can see, this is just an overview. I would always add match review and recovery after a match. Match review, tactical familiarity increases, and team cohesion increases. Team bonding also hits team cohesion. I would also add community outreach. Like, people say community outreach doesn't do enough, but it's, if you perform 20 or 30 community outreaches in a year, you will see a small improvement, enough to justify it. You can see training happiness, who's been best. You can see anybody who might be injured. So calendar. Again, this is an easy way to go, oh, I've got friendlies. Let's go that. I've got another friendly. I would always recommend putting these in at the start of pre-season. Just, no, it's physical recovery. I would always be adding these in. They are so, so important to do. Then you've got schedules. You can do custom schedules. I just sort of let the coaches do as they desire. Units is really important because one of the things I see people do all the time is they don't actually train the players into position they're going to play. And it is actually quite important. It's much, much better for their development if you actually train them into position. So, for example, Kieran Trippier, he's not going to develop much. But Timo Livramento, I already changed him, I believe. You want these guys to be playing or training in the position they're going to play. It will affect their development. Emil Kraft, I mean, he's not training, but wing-back support. Manquillo, again, wing-back and support, I guess. Botman is that ball-playing defender, and so on. It takes about a minute or so, but it is really important to do, especially with young players. You want them to be training in the positions that they're going to play because it will boost their development. Domit is going to be the wing-back support, I guess. Bruno's the deep-line playmaker. Byrne, again, is going to be a ball-playing defender. And Lascelles is going to be a ball-playing defender. Yay. And again, Matt Ritchie's not going to improve at all, but, you know. It's just something you need to get in the habit of doing. Because there's little stuff like this that will impact your game in a way you don't necessarily see unless you look through it. But it takes all of 2 minutes. Do it. I have to go and do Gordon separately because he's still out injured. Yeah, that's fine. Match preparation. You can see this. You can see how people are preparing for. You can see this will come up a couple of days before the match, what you want to focus in. I've not really seen any particular major thing to do this for. You can check your primarily trained tactics. So, for example, that's quite useful. If you do some weird-ass fucking formation. No, if I copy that. I want to copy it, please. If I do some weird-ass formation that looks a bit like this. Or so you see some Football Manager people do it, where it's fucking, okay, how the fuck has he got a link but there, but not? Huh? What? Okay, but anyway, say I'm playing that as my main formation for whatever reason. But you don't really want your underage squad to be playing that. I mean, there's no actual right back, there's no wingers. You just want a classic squad for your players to train at. You can set your regular ass 4-3-3 as the one they actually train on. I'm actually going to do a little bit of tweaking here because I think I can make this better. Not like this formation, like God no. But I reckon if I do this, advanced player may work on attack, Isaac, Bruno, yeah, they much prefer playing together like that. I kind of like a Correo, but he's better as a deep line playmaker. I'll try this. Deep line playmaker on defence. And then Elliot Anderson playing the plan. Well, that still works because then you've got Lewis Hall as the deep line playmaker instead in the middle of the park. And then you still have Lewis Millet as the advanced playmaker. Again, I would just change it. It takes all of 2 seconds. It increases their tactical familiarity with it. It means they're more likely to be happy going into it. Training, what else? Got mentoring. Mentoring can be very powerful. But it's difficult to get right. Typically, what you might want to do is add the young players who are going to get stuff, and then look for the best personality. So in this case, I'd actually probably want Trippier, Wilson, and maybe Botman. I don't want them being taught by the gambler. And you can see Lewis Millie, Elliot Anderson, Tilo Livramento, and Lewis Hall are all getting decent amounts of effect from the group. What is that effect? Well, you can see Trippier's given a lot, and he is a resolute fullback who's a leader. They can also give these player traits as well, so you might want to look, is there a player trait you don't want to give? Tries tricks can be annoying, but if they have high flair, it's nice. It is quite funny because there's some skills like winds the opposition up or where it gets crowd going, and if you do it correctly, you can mentor this into younger players, which is very funny. It can be quite useful, especially if you have a model citizen, team leader, get him mentoring your young lads. Individual, this is a great place to see who's doing well. In a couple of weeks in the season, you start able to praise players for training. I would always praise players who get a training rating over an 8. It's an easy way to get happiness. It's an easy way to boost development. Also, if they get under a 6.5-ish, don't be harsh, but call them out and be like, what's going on? That can also boost development. That can also boost determination, which is really good. Rest, so there's a player that you think needs rest, you can just go, no gym and pitch work. You can even send them on holiday. I had to do it with Benjamin Sesko at one point because whenever I signed him for Brighton in the second season, I got a Tycoon takeover at Brighton. I signed Benjamin Sesko, and he came and he was already knackered, so I had to send him on holiday for a week. And then you can see coaches. This is really important. Edit coach assignments. You can see we've got pretty good overall. You could probably do better. But don't forget we still have a lot of coaches coming in. We still have coaches coming in. So we should be able to do that much better. That is one you can absolutely micromanage if you want. Zealand would micromanage it. And Benji would micromanage it. But for most of us, it's okay just to go remove all askers and sign. I do it Derry City. Derry City is a save where you need to get every single little bit out of it. So you micromanage. Medical Centre, again, good to know, but you can find a lot of this stuff just by looking at them here. You can see lacking sharpness. Maybe they'll not be fine. You can see that just here. It's useful to know about. I very rarely come in here. You can see expected return. You can see any injury history. You can see season summaries, blah, blah, blah. Schedule. Handy enough. Calendar. This is quite good. If you want to arrange a friendly, arrange friendly. Bonk. Friendly arrangement, especially for smaller teams, is vital. They will give you a source of money you will not. Am I playing Real Madrid for dumb at testimonials? Sorry. Anyway, what? Sorry. That's not going to do that. Especially if you're a lower club, you want to be arranging 1 or 2 friendlies a week against bigger clubs. You might get your ass handed to you, but the amount of money you're going to get for that in return will be worth it. You can also cancel friendlies if you want. Events, anything interesting, you can see, oh yeah, we entered on the 21s here, the transfer window closes here, stuff like that. Reminders, that's just in case you want to remind yourself, oh, next gen releases this day, that sort of thing. Competitions again. Only thing that's really cool about this, you can see the rules, which is important. Premier League's pretty understandable, but if you're playing in different leagues, the rules can stifle you. For example, in Hong Kong, you can only use 4 foreign players. There's a lot of leagues where there's a foreign player limit. You might not know that going in, so it's always worth, if you're playing in a league you don't necessarily know, just go to rules. You can see here anything interesting. You can see who qualifies for what place, how much money you get, but also how many players you need. So you need to have 8 players trained in England for 3 years before the 21st birthday. A maximum of 25 players when the windows are, that sort of thing. You can sign no more than 6 foreign under 21 players a season. Loan rules, again, useful to know. Also good as season preview, just shows you where they think they actually predict us to come 4th. You can see who's the best players in the league, so they think Bruno and Kieran are my best players. Yeah. Also good for stuff like this, you can just go and see if there's any other rules. It's useful to know. Scouting, I will do a full scouting tutorial another day. Transfers, again, I'll do another full transfer thing another day. You can see now, you can actually see what staff members coming in. You can see Lewis Hall, 28 million. I mean, he's decent, but he's not that good. He's good rotation is the only thing I can guess. You can see all my staff members coming in. You can also see what clause you have. At smaller clubs, you might be able to get a bit of money by selling some of these clauses. They are negotiated by the director of football. You don't have a role of that. So you can put in the contract. You can, for example, make a bid or get bid for, I don't know, say you're Man City and you get a 50 million bid for Nathan Ake with 10 million after he plays 50 games. You might accept that. And sometimes you might get an option to sell that clause for 10 million for 8 million, but you get it there and then, whereas you have to wait till he plays 50 matches. It can be worth having a look at those every season, just see if there's any that's sellable. Club info we've went through, you can see who our hot prospect is. Jan Kuba Minter. Oh my god, he actually looks insane. Why are we not rotating him? I could use this guy in the squad right now. Can I recall? Yo, what the hell? Ooh, okay. That's cool. You can see our balance, stuff like this. General, news about us, facilities. Decent to check. We don't actually have that good junior recruitment. Any affiliate clubs? Any history? Club vision, I've shown you this before. Finances can be useful to look at, but you're not going to really ever need to focus on this too much unless you go into a club that's in major shit. Like maybe you go into Everton and you have to really pay attention to their debts and loans. And development centre, this is where your under 21s are. Most of the time you will not really deal with them. That will be on other people to manage. You will hire staff managers. You can also do that. The last thing we will look at is responsibilities, because I think these are really important to get right. There are certain responsibilities you cannot do. You can't provide financial support. You can't be the public spokesperson. You can't control when you get fired, because that would, you know what I mean? Staff. You can see everything that's in purple is something that I am not directly controlling. So I would prefer to hire the staff of underage teams. Why? Because honestly, I can do better. I can get better staff than the club would do for me. If you don't really care, especially if you're not a Premier League team, if you're not a top level team, you're not going to be developing world-class youngsters. So it is not really a major issue if you just let this club do it. But when you're in the Premier League and you have the reputation and money to bring in top level staff, I think you should take control of that. Advice and reports. Now, this sort of thing, for example, development, I would always give to the person with the best judging player potential and ability, in which case it's Steve Harper. I would normally look for a scout actually who maybe has higher than Jason Tyndall, which is something you can do. Scouting, I am the scout. So this is very simple. You can either ask Steve Nixon to scout for you, and he'll just do whatever he thinks is necessary. Or I can go, no, I want to scout. I want to decide what happens, and you can then make recruitment focuses and all that. Again, that's a transfer thing that I will go through at a later date. Training. No, God, where was I? Staff responsibilities. I was in scouting. Also, holding scout meetings. You can get rid of that if you want. It can be useful sometimes. Who provides opposition reports. You can choose a better scout. If you think there's a scout that's better at doing it than one other. So, Guy Apoa. I'd actually prefer him doing other stuff. So, maybe I'll bring in Peter Clark to do it instead. Because I'd rather him be abroad. Transfers and contracts. Chances are you're going to be in charge of all this. And you can do it if you set this to your director of football where you don't make signings, your director of football will. Because you delegate this to Dan Ashworth or whoever your director of football is, doesn't mean you can't do it as well. But it means throughout the season they will make bids for certain players. Now this can make a very, very interesting save. If you go to Chelsea and you bring in a director of football and let him make all the transfers, that could be a really interesting save where you just deal with what you're given. A bit like some clubs in real life, that difference between a coach and a manager. There's a guy who's involved in the club very heavily, or there's a guy who just coaches who he's got available. That could be fun. Media, I do not do any of these. Jason Tyndall does all these. You can do these if you want. You can get morale boosts and stuff like that, but I just normally let Tyndall do it. Yeah, again, I lead general training. I don't do under 21 or 18 training. Tactics. Yeah, again, I deal with actually providing opposition instructions. Match. I don't do friendly matches. For me, honestly, they're a bit of a waste of time. I simply do the actual competitive matches. You can also make unfit first team players available for the under 21 squad. I'm going to do every week. No, every week. And set pieces will come up later. You can delegate it to your set piece coach at Tyndall if you want. Just as a general matter of fact, going far post in swinging is usually the best way to go. So that is this save mostly set up. Over the next weeks and months, until the season starts, I'll be looking to offload Dubravka, Savage, Manquillo, Ritchie, and bring in maybe another midfielder. But because I've taken the steps and I've checked to see who I need and what I need, I'm now able to go and make decisions about transfers and about a formation. The only thing I'd say is I don't really know if I want 2 playmakers. He is better as a shadow striker, isn't he? What about melee? Can he do shadow striker? Oh, he's actually better as a shadow striker as well. Sound. So, because I've did all of that in advance, I have a very good footing now to go on and really do well this season. So I hope that helps you a little bit. I hope that makes things a bit more clear. I've tried to explain as much and give as much, because a lot of these things I had to figure out on my own. So I'm hoping that that provides a more stable base for you to then go on and learn. I hope, this has been a long video, 53 minutes is long, but I'm hoping that you got at least something from this. But I hope you all have a great day.